Kelly Brough is president and CEO of the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. She was previously over at City Hall, where she was a mayoral chief of staff and director of human resources for the city of Denver. Kelly, thanks so much for your time to take a few questions today.
Thanks, Bazi. It's great to be here with you.
So this pandemic has definitely taken a toll on businesses and employees in many different ways. We're finally at the point where we're hopeful that the end is near. How do you think public and private sectors can work together to accelerate the recovery and just move us forward?
You know, the public and private sectors working together is something we have done successfully for decades. And frankly, it's been key to a lot of our economic success, and it'll be no different as we try to come out of this pandemic. Working together to understand, what's good policy to protect employees and customers, and working together to figure out how you get people back to work safely. It's always weighing the economic challenge with the public health needs, because the economic crisis was really caused by a pandemic. So this is a great example of why that partnership is so important, that we understand what is safe. We've learned a lot. Public health has advised us really wonderfully through this pandemic, I would say, as they were learning. And I think that is going to help us get back to work and successfully protect everybody while we do it.
So many things have changed during this pandemic. Can you envision a return to normal or something close to normal? And what will that require?
Yeah, this is an interest. I love this question of when do we get back to normal? I think there's a lot of energy and desire to get back. We miss each other. And so the first one, of course, is making sure we protect everybody's health as we continue to move back to being together. And so I would say the first hurdle is the public health one. As we're vaccinating older adults, those who are most vulnerable and at greatest risk, I think you're seeing public health officials say we can lighten up and start to put people back in environments where you can work together and be together. But there's a second hurdle, Bazi, and I think that is people feeling comfortable. I think what we were reminded is we actually pass, viruses to each other. That's how we get them. And I think, we're starting to see, along with the public health lifting of the restrictions, that people also are feeling pretty comfortable. These two things were very connected. And I think before these last couple months, that wasn't as clear. And then, of course, finally, I would just say the last one is we were reminded, washing your hands, creating a little space between you and others, not hugging every time I see someone. Those are things that can help protect us from much more than just COVID in the long run. So some good lessons. And I think we're getting back to normal, and maybe most importantly, the chance to be together.
Definitely. So there's now more federal stimulus funding coming to help with the recovery. How do you think our region can best use that funding to provide short and long-term benefits?
Yeah, Bazi, I really appreciate this question because this last year, and we've been in this situation for over a year, which I don't think a year ago any of us thought we'd be this long struggling with the pandemic. There are industries that have been decimated by this pandemic. And when I say that, what I mean is that's jobs, that's people's lives. And they definitely need this direct assistance that is coming their way. Both the employer needs it and the employees. The assistance can help employers keep employees on payroll. And for those who've lost their jobs, it can help those employees navigate unemployment. And this isn't a solution by any means, but it can help, and it's critically important. The last thing I'd say about this is, listen, there is no government program that replaces what a good job does for a family. So all of us have to be focused on the most important thing to do is to help people get back to work. And any of the stimulus that does that is very helpful.
One of the things the pandemic has highlighted is persistent and even growing inequality. This is a broad question, but what are just some of your thoughts on what can be done to promote equity across the community in areas ranging from healthcare to education to economic opportunity?
Yeah, 4 years ago, we were identified by U.S. News and World Report as the #1 economy in the nation. And this is really great news because this is my job. But at that time, when we were first recognized that way, we started to look into some of the disparities we saw in our economy. And what we realized is not everybody was accessing those opportunities at the same rate. And so we set out to change that then. And indeed, 2020 for many people highlighted what we were already tracking and frankly developing strategies around how do you impact those disparities. The two areas we primarily focus on are race and ethnicity and gender. And what you have seen in this is hard to overstate. I'll use women as an example. Women coming out of the workplace, many are describing it as choice, that the woman had an option. But the truth is, if you talk to many working women, what they'll tell you is they didn't feel they had any choice but to leave the workplace during the pandemic because of the pressures and challenges, or they were overrepresented in those direct service jobs that were lost during the pandemic. We need to double down and use this moment to really use stimulus dollars and private dollars to ensure we bring people back into opportunity.
So some of the disruptive changes from this pandemic will be permanent, and that means people will have to retool their skills to adapt to this new normal. What are some of the things that you think the public and private sectors can do to support those workers who are in this transition?
Yeah, this is a great example of when you put those two together, you can really have an impact. So a wonderful example here is for the public sector to create incentives for employers to train their employees, to utilize apprenticeship programs, where kids in high school start working in career opportunities to learn about them. Career-wise would be a wonderful example of a program that does this. Or programs like offered at Emily Griffith Opportunity School that are really focused on building career skills. There's a program called Skill Advance Colorado Job Training Grant. It's part of a state program, and it incentivizes employers to equip employees with transferable job skills. It's almost like you think of every employee as their own little economic engine. We diversify our economy. The same is true for an employee. If we can diversify your skills and give you a range of skills, then if something happens in the industry you're in, you're easily able to navigate to another opportunity. That's exactly how we should be thinking today. Bazi, I want to give you one other example that we're working on right now with our state, and it's called Fair Chance Hiring. This is all about incentivizing employees to consider candidates who maybe have had a history with our criminal justice system. But as they come out of that system, we have a number of barriers to re-employ and invite people into our workforces. This is a great opportunity to rethink some of the restrictions we have put on people being able to get to work.
That's definitely important for a lot of people and a lot of families. So let's talk for a minute about the younger generation. All of those people, maybe they're students right now, who will be coming into the workforce in the next few years as we as a society are coming out of this unprecedented pandemic. What do you think can be done to best support them and help them get their best possible start?
Yeah, I know that I have two 20-year-olds, so I'll just say this is really going to be hard for them to hear. And my guess is it may be hard for others who are just trying to navigate in this environment the start of their careers. But the truth is there are many previous generations in the world's history who have suffered through terrible moments in time. You can think about other pandemics, world wars, Holocaust, genocides, and each of those, no matter which country you're in, and particularly in the United States, we've seen great resilience afterward. And I expect nothing less from today's generation. That doesn't make what they're going through easier. But I often think about some of the greatest hardships when people share those with us from their own lives. What they did was make a choice about, I'm going to use this hardship to learn something and to position myself and to become stronger, or it could become an excuse. And I think this is where we as a community have to ensure we're providing the support to ensure that our young people can use this moment to learn and grow and be stronger as they build their careers.
Resilience is definitely an important skill for young people. So we've also heard a lot about the mental and the emotional toll the pandemic has had on Coloradans of all ages. What more can businesses and government do to support Coloradans in this important area, in mental health?
Bazi, just asking the question I think is helpful because we have to speak about it. I still believe the greatest challenge in addressing our emotional well-being and the strain that we're feeling mentally is the stigma associated with it. And so we know that more people have access to mental health supports through their healthcare providers, but what we still have to overcome is the recognition that all of us are impacted by isolation and separation, and that many of us have asked for help in our lives, and we will again. And so I do think just talking about it, acknowledging it, and this is where I think true leadership is sharing honestly that we all need help sometimes, and there is absolutely a lot of reason why this is one of those times for many of us.
Kelly Brough from the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.